faith beyond our lifetime. And we'll see that throughout Scripture, and that's what we're going to look at today. But let's look at the verse for this morning. It says, by faith, Joseph, the dreamer, at the end of his life, made mention of the exodus of the Israelites and gave directions concerning his bones. Right? Now, just the context. Hebrews 11 is the chapter of faith. They've mentioned Abraham, Isaac, all these great Bible heroes in Hebrews 11. For Joseph, what was mentioned in the entire Hebrews 11 is only this. Okay? They didn't mention about his dreams or the jacket or the falsely accused, put into prison, the dreams and how he became second in command in a foreign land. It was never mentioned. What was only mentioned about the life of Joseph was that by faith, Joseph, at the end of his life, made mention of the exodus of the Israelites and gave direction concerning his bones. Right? Now, Joseph lived in the book of Genesis. There was no exodus. Joseph, hindi niya Facebook friend si Moses. They don't know each other. They have no mutual friends. Right? This was 200 to 300 years after. But when he was about to die, by faith, Joseph didn't see it yet in reality, but maybe saw it in a vision or a dream, since he's a dreamer. And because of the oral stories that were passed on through generation, by faith, Joseph made mention of Exodus. Mamamatay na siya. Guys, one of these days, we will not be a foreigner in this land. We will have our own land. Right? And he made mention of how this is going to happen. And then he says, when that happens, here, I've made my directions of what you will do to my body. Make sure it doesn't stay in Egypt. Right? Now again, you look at that and you say, okay, so what's the meaning of that? What's up with the bones? Diba? Bakit panay buto, diba? Before he even died, he shared about, this is what God is going to do hundreds of years from now. There's going to be an exodus that will happen, and I want you to get my bones, because I don't want my bones buried in Egypt. I want my bones buried in that promise, whatever promised land that is. Right? So what's up with this bone? Now, the way to understand Hebrews 11 is to go back to the book of Genesis, where the bones of Joseph was actually mentioned. In Genesis 50, verse 24, and Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will visit you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. Right? He gathers his family, pamangkin and apo, all together, and his brothers. And he tells them, I'm about to die, guys. And I want you to know, God will deliver us. Because this was the promise of who? Of great-grandfather. Grandfather. Okay. Angkong, di ba? Si tatay, si Angkong, at saka si Taikong. Right? Pag Chinese ka, naintindihan mo yon, right? Great-grandfather to grandfather to my dad. And now, I'm sharing this to you because this is about to happen. I don't know when, but this is going to happen. From the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it's passed on to me. My role is to pass this to you. Okay? That's how the stories were passed on during those days. The last wish, the last words of a dying man saying, this is going to happen. We won't stay in Egypt forever. We're going to go out and we're going to have our own promised land. Now let's look at the great-grandfather's conversation with God. Genesis 12. Okay? This was with Abraham. Now the Lord said to Abraham, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great so that you will be a blessing. So from Genesis 12, God already told Abraham, Abraham, In your line will come a great nation. Nothing's going to stop that promise. It is going to happen. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Israel is the father of Joseph. Right? Imagine the promise in Genesis 12. Look at where Israel is now. Israel is a great nation. Right? Galing, no? From Genesis 12, this was already prophesied. You will be a nation. You will be a small, yet a very great nation. Right? But we see Joseph was telling his kids and his brothers, what we have is a multi-generational God. Okay? We have the God of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob, and now of Joseph. I want you to picture that in your own life. I want you to know that when you're really old, I hope the people that you talk with, your loved ones, you'll be able to say to them, the God of Uncle, the God of Lolo, the God of Daddy, and your God. Now, and I want you to hold on to the promise that God has for our family. Why? Because God is a multi-generational God. We started in 1984 with young people. We had 0 adults. It's all young people. I want you to look at this room. Some of them now are fruits when you were saved in campus ministry. I was saved in campus. I'm now talking to you as a 38-year-old guy. You see? Tumanda na rin ako. Right? But then we cannot stop from declaring that the God that I worship is a multi-generational God. I was saved when I was 12. I'm now 38. I have 4 kids. And now my kids worship God. Now in our own line, we came from a Christian heritage. My lolo from the mother's side is actually a Protestant, nominal from China. Right? Went to the Philippines, passed on the faith to my mom, who would go to a church on a Sunday, very nominal, not active, just attending church on a Sunday. But during her 40s, encountered the Lord and became very active. My mom became very active. Now my dad got saved. So now it's a spiritual legacy that they pass on to us. We're 6 siblings, and all of us now are all believers. Nagpastor pa yung isa. Right? And now I have 4 kids, and my kids are now worshiping and singing to the same God that my grandfather worships. 4 generations. Our God is a multi-generational God. It's amazing to look when you see that when you make a decision, my family, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Look at the fruit of what happens. Because God moves that way. He's multi-generational. I do hope my kids, my daughters, would marry a Christian godly man so that the heritage would continue on. I'm talking to some parents here for some fixed marriages for that legacy to continue, right? So, why? Because we have a multi-generation, joke lang yun, okay? We have a ganun pala doktrina nila dito, okay? So, not true, okay? We have a multi-generational God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. So, gathered everyone, mamamatay na ako ha. Make sure. When that happens, and God delivers you from Egypt to the promised, please carry my bones. Here are the instructions. I've given them to you. Okay? I don't want to stay in Egypt. I want my ashes, my bones to be on that promise wherever that land is. So Joseph died, being 110 years old. They embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. That's how his life ended. Imagine. His very last words is, one day, it's going to happen. And when it happens, don't forget my bones. Okay? And then everybody agreed. And for sure, they passed this on. Sabi ni Lolo, when this happens, a generation dies. and a generation dies, and a generation dies, and this word was passed on because it started in Genesis 12, ended in Genesis 50, and was orally transferred. Basta ito lang bilin ni Joseph. Right? And then what happened? 200 years after. Ganong katagal. After 200, estimate, 200 to 300, alam ko medyo malayo, no? 200 to 300 years after, God raised a man named Moses that Joseph did not know. Joseph would never thought would exist. There would be a man named Moses, right? And if you look at the life of Moses, makulay din, pang MMK din, right? And now these two lives will connect. I want you to see. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. And the people of Israel went up out of the land of Egypt equipped for battle. So in their minds, they're thinking, is this now the fulfillment of Genesis 12 and what the aposatuhod ni Abraham was saying, that God will surely visit us and there will be an exodus? Look at what's on their mind. So when they went out of Egypt, Moses equipped them for battle. Moses knew, I'm fighting against a big man, Pharaoh, who always changes his mind. And now let's go out. And they went out, and they were allowed to go out. But Moses made sure 300,000 to 400,000 men were equipped for battle. May laban. Lalaban tayo. Why? Malamang Pharaoh will once again change his mind and go after us, so they equipped them for battle. As they were walking, the men were saying, Moses, where are we going? You know, Exodus 14 is a chapter about the Red Sea. Moses knew they were about to go to the Red Sea and there's no way out. Okay? 1 million people will be trapped because there's a Red Sea in front of them. But they were equipped for battle. But imagine now the emotions of the men who had their swords. And they were saying, saan tayo punta? Laban tayo, laban. Saan na tayo? Red Sea. Paano tayo? Hindi ko rin alam. Mukhang walang plano. I think there's no plan. I think we'll be trapped. What if they change their minds? They were equipped for battle, but they had nowhere to go. This was the story. Imagine now this story being spread out. We will all die. Better for us to be in Egypt. That's why the lines. They were equipped for battle, but they were not motivated. They knew, oh no, we're about to die. We followed this man who doesn't have any strategies. But we all know what happened, right? The Red Sea parted. But before it parted, they had no clue it will part, right? Even Moses, pagka gano'n, di ba gumana si Moses, di ba? He never knew God will do this. They were equipped for battle, but they were trapped. And now they heard the news, Pharaoh changed his mind and an army is about to go and attack them. So Exodus 30:18, they were equipped for battle, but look what Moses did. He knew, oh no, it's Red Sea, I don't know what to do, but he remembers something in Exodus. And it's written in verse 19. I don't know if you've seen this. This is the first time I saw this while preparing this message. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. For Joseph had made the sons of Israel solemnly swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. So they were equipped for battle. Everybody's discouraged. Oh no, what will we do? Red Seas, they could see the Red Sea. There's nowhere to go. Moses says, oh, andito nga pala the oral story. We've got to get the coffin of Joseph. They digged it. And it was a sacred moment for the whole Israelites. Imagine the digging, the stories. Somebody told us this will happen. And that God will surely visit. They dig the coffin. And maybe just like this, quiet, everybody's quiet. Some are sleeping, okay. Holy moment. Imagine the men who were equipped for battle but nowhere to go. They saw the coffin. And Moses now shouts this out. Remember, he said, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. Oh, siguro nag-ano na yung mga lalaki, di ba? Di ba gumagano? Parang laban. Exodus 13, you'll see, and 14. Then God did something. While they were moving the coffin, walking, another special effect happened. Pillar of fire followed them. So imagine, takot. Trap to. Sana bumalik na tayo Egypt. Ayat na. Di ba lumabas yung coffin, di ba? Imagine the emotion you might feel if you're there. The coffin was a picture of God's faithfulness. It was a reminder again, laban! Let's go! Coffin pa lang yun, wala pa yung pillar of fire. They were so excited about this. They were going to fight and go to battle now. And then, the climax, the parting of the Red Sea. Right? It was so exciting that when they crossed the Red Sea, they were able to compose a song and started singing in Exodus 15 about how God delivered them and how God killed all the thousands of chariots who were trying to chase them. But what was the trigger? The bones. The picture of God said 300 years ago, this will happen and He will visit us, surely. Joseph's bones became a symbol of God's faithfulness and power. It wasn't the Red Sea. It was the coffin. That's how powerful it is. Remember, we have a generational, multi-generational purpose from God. Joseph knew this. Instruction for my bones, okay? Make sure this will happen. Maybe he knew that in the near future, the bones will lift up a weary army. An army that's about to surrender because there was no way out. And then the bones came out. Multi-generational purpose. It's a reminder. Now, is that powerful? Let me give it to you on a local context so we can understand how powerful this is. Sino dito taga San Juan? You're from San Juan. You live in San Juan City. Now, if you're from San Juan, you should not. It's a sin for you not to visit what we call Pinaglabanan Shrine. This is the center of the town. This is what made San Juan, not Green Hills, right? Don't believe the commercial in the cinema, all right? This is what made San Juan, this shrine. Now, why? What happened in Pinaglabanan? Nandiyan po yung City Hall natin ngayon, in the Pinaglabanan Shrine. If you love Eat Fresh and, it's near there, right? Eat Fresh, I know. Pinaglabanan, I do not. Let me educate you, okay? This is more important than Eat Fresh. Eat Fresh is second, okay? During the time of the Katipuneros, okay, they had this bold plan. Andres Bonifacio and his men had this bold plan of going to the house of gunpowders here, in this site. Okay? Casa de Polvoron ata. It's now called Goldilocks. Okay, so, something like that, all right? The plan was, capture the gunpowder factory, get the guns, we now have guns. Because we don't have guns, right? The Katipuneros, all they had was a bolo and a knife. And puso, right? Ganun lang talaga. Pag matatangkad na kalaban natin, puso! Okay, kasi wala na tayong wala na. Okay, yun na. Puso na. Okay. And maybe this is where puso came from. Okay? So sabi nila Andres, here was the plan. Imagine, 5'1", matangkad ng 5'3". They were meeting together, mga Katipuneros. Di ba? Tatapang at tao to. Parang Andres Bonifacio. Yeah. Kailangan natin puntahan yung Polvoron. Right? Paano na? Wala tayong baril. Ang mga Kastila. Di ba? Baka tayo'y patayin. Yan. Kaya to. Puso, puso. Diba? Diba sabi nga ni Pingris? Diba? So, you know, what's happening? To make it work, okay, they got 400 katipuneros. The plan was, attack, get shot, others alive, go get the house of Polvoron. Suicide mission. Tapang lang talaga. Di ba? Hindi to parang dito lapit, tapos buhay pa. No. This is like Cardo, okay? Nabuhay pa rin hanggang ngayon. No? Parang tagal na, parang mag-iba na presidente natin, may probinsyano pa rin. Right? Parang bata pa ako nung, parang grade 6 ako nung nag-start yung probinsyano. Which Pastor Francis really likes. Okay, so, watches it every night. Okay. So imagine mo yung plano nila. They attack. Spaniards saw them. Pam, 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 pam. Suicide mission. Close to 200 Filipinos died. For that certain, wala pang 1 kilometer attack. Talagang, that's the only strategy. Di ba? It's like, pam, 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 pam. Okay. Close to 100 got imprisoned, but they were able to get the factory. Right? Now, I know that was a success, but then they were so demoralized, the unit that went, because all their friends died. But the news now spread, Santa Mesa, Quezon City, of what happened. Hindi ko alam kung umabot ng Las Piñas, malayo na. Di ba? No, umabot hanggang Cavite of this heroic act. That they said, because of this, it created factions of rebellion throughout Manila that tried to topple the Spaniards. That's why Pinaglabanan Shrine is there. Now I know you go there, you drive there, minsan nga dinadaanan mo, hindi mo alam. Bakit? Hindi mo alam yung kwento eh. Pero ngayon alam mo na yung kwento, no? Pagpunta ka sa Pinaglabanan, gaganong ka pa habang nagdadrive. Mga anak mo, gaganong-ganon. Yeah. Bakit? Ang lakas ng kwento. And there's a museum beside this, where the mayor has made mga dolls na gawa ni Tesoro ba yung gumawa? Yeah, the dolls, you can actually go there and you will see the whole story of the Katipunan. You'll be proud to be a Filipino. Ako nga, Pilchay, proud ako eh. Right? I'm proud to be a Filipino after hearing the story of bravery and courage. And this is Pinaglabanan. This is not even the gospel. This is not a person who died on the cross. This was a person who wanted to get Polvoron. Imagine. But that's the power of a symbol. When Joseph's bones were taken out, I hope you see the effect. Rippled effect. And then the pillars of fire, and then the cloud by night, and then the parting of the Red Sea, they burst out into a song of praise that made them continue the journey, the long 40-year journey to the promised land. The question I want you to ask yourself is this: what's your bone? What can you look back and say, this was a memory, this was a moment, this was a place, this is a person that has stirred up my faith to continue on, to pass on this faith to the next generation? What's that bone? For some of you, it might be the first house your great-grandparents bought. And you go there, and you're no longer, your business is not working, and then you see that house, it reminds you, somebody worked really hard in our family. This is a wake-up call for me. God is telling me, this is my bone. Let me do something about my life and the destiny of my kids. I don't know what it is. You could have many bones in your life. But what's your bone? The reminder of God's purposes, not just for me, but beyond me. And the stories that came after, in their education, in their songs, of how Joseph said, let my bones be a story of God's faithfulness and power. What's our bone? You see, we're called to a multi-generational faith, faith beyond us. Right? Me sharing to you the faith of my grandfather. He's now in heaven. Right? And the story's still being told. It started with Angkor. That's why we're all Christians. The seeds, multi-generational faith. Psalms 105. Look at the promise. For the Lord is good. His steadfast love endures forever, and His faithfulness to all generations. A multi-generational God with a multi-generational purpose, because we are embracing a multi-generational faith. The best legacy you'll leave is spiritual legacy. And I tell this with full conviction. You leave money, you're a millionaire, a billionaire, you leave money to your kids who have different values, you know what you leave? A major fight. If they're not godly. And you live your life trying to earn, acquire, and leave it to people who don't even appreciate the hard work behind it. If they're not godly. Okay? Leave a house, it will decay. Yung iba, walang pakialam. Bakit? Hindi nila naintindihan yung kwento. And you're passing it on. But spiritual, godly legacy you leave behind, it bears fruit. The heritage of godliness. Right? And I could say examples of many here in this church. The reason they're here today is because their lolo and lola were actually Christians, and they continue on that legacy of faith. Faith beyond our lifetime. Something we need to build. Something we need to put our energies into. Something we need to think about starting today. Do I have those testimony of bones? Will my bones be a story for the next generation?